The NES, in my opinion, is one of the greatest consoles of all time. It was the first console I had as a kid, so I've been playing some of these games for nearly 26 plus years, and that's a long time to be playing the same games. But there's such a great variety in the library, and there's so many titles to choose from. You've got awesome games like Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3, Double Dragon, Ninja Gaiden, Battletoads, Final Fantasy, The Legend of Zelda. The list goes on and on with timeless classics from the NES library. Now, a lot of people seem to think that they know all of the best games on the system and they've played everything worth playing. But I don't think that's necessarily true. There's a lot of under the radar games that either people just overlook or don't know about. So in this video, we're going to take a look at my NES Hidden Gems. These are games that I think don't get enough coverage, games that are definitely worth playing, and games that you should definitely own. Now, without any further ado, let's check out my list of NES Hidden Gems.
A Nightmare on Elm Street is a game that gets a bad reputation, but I'm not quite sure why, honestly. Following the theme of the movies, up to 4 players can try and take down Freddy all at the same time, which makes this game very unique on the NES. Players must stay awake by defeating enemies, avoiding getting hit, and picking up coffee. When in the dream world, you'll battle various versions of Freddy as well, all inspired by the movies. The platforming is decent, and the music is very well composed as well, which makes A Nightmare on Elm Street a solid addition to the NES library and a true hidden gem in my opinion. Felix the Cat is the most expensive game on this list, but I think it's one of the best games on the NES that not enough people seem to talk about. Felix the Cat is a 2D platformer from Hudson Soft, with bright and colorful graphics and really tight gameplay. Felix also has a bunch of different attacks with power-ups from his magic that enhance the gameplay experience immensely. At the time of this video, Felix is about $70 for a loose cart, due to being a late release on the NES, and I foresee this title becoming even more expensive in the future. Felix the Cat is a fantastic game on the NES and definitely should be in your NES library. Rescue the Embassy Mission is a game that you often see for single digits, and you might pass it up thinking it's a garbage title because of the price. In actuality though, Rescue the Embassy Mission plays a lot like Rainbow Six games that were very popular in the early 2000s. The gameplay variety is pretty impressive for this game, featuring sneaking missions, sniping, and infiltration of a building to rescue hostages inside. The animation is pretty solid for the time, and the gameplay is pretty fun as well. The game can be completed pretty quickly, but that shouldn't deter you from picking up this game because there is a lot of fun to be had with Rescue the Embassy Mission. Pro wrestling games are often thought to be hollow and meaningless experiences on the NES, but if you're looking for a decent one, Tecmo World Wrestling will more than fill that role. With 20 moves per wrestler, there's a good amount of variety for grappling fans to enjoy with this game. A neat addition is the text-based announcer calling the action on the lower portion of the screen, which really adds a layer of depth to the game. Tecmo World Wrestling is another cheap NES title that you probably often overlook, but it's a real hidden gem for the console, and I recommend picking it up. Violent games aren't something you think of when you think of the NES library, so it doesn't seem like a franchise like The Punisher would work on the console. But guess what? It does. Playing as the Punisher, you move on rails, mowing down Kingpin's med in gritty urban environments. The Punisher features some really nice graphics and level design, and the shooting mechanics are pretty fluid as well. The game features a wide variety of power-ups such as a bazooka and a machine gun to keep things fresh throughout. If you enjoy rail shooters or comic book franchises, The Punisher is a very solid addition to your NES library. Archon was a game I wasn't familiar with until about 2 years ago, but I'm glad I found this game, as it's one of the most hidden gems on the NES. On the surface, Archon looks like a strange game of chess, but there's so much more to the game. You try and control power points on the map and eliminate your opposition, but when you battle, it's in real time. Each character has strengths and weaknesses, so matchups are key when battling. Certain characters can move more freely than others, like in chess as well, so you have to be really careful not to leave your team open to attack. What I really enjoy about this game is that even if a higher ranked character attacks your lower rank, you still have a fighting chance since the battling is done in real time. Archon takes a little bit to get used to, but once you understand the mechanics of the game, it's a ton of fun. Everyone talks about Batman from Sunsoft as one of the finest NES entries, but I think Batman Returns deserves some recognition as well. Less Ninja Gaiden and more Double Dragon, Batman Returns is a beat 'em up that feels a lot like a traditional Batman experience that we're used to today. Batman Returns follows the events of the movies with locations and enemies from the hit film well represented in the game. As with any game in the genre, it can be a bit monotonous at times, but Batman Returns is a fun beat 'em up that 8-bit enthusiasts will have a lot of fun with. The Guardian Legend is probably the most well-known game on this list, but it's still a hidden gem in the fact that most people don't realize how impactful this game was. Receiving mixed reviews and low fanfare when originally released on the NES, The Guardian Legend is a blend of a vertical shoot 'em up and a top-down action game that feels a bit like The Legend of Zelda. The shoot 'em up portions of the game are fast and frantic, and control really well with some impressive graphics. The top-down action portions also feel good as well, with a non-linear exploration system while searching through the area known as the Labyrinth. With some of the best graphics on the NES, The Guardian Legend is an excellent adventure, and if you haven't picked it up yet, it's still a very affordable NES hidden gem. Crystallis is an action RPG for the NES that plays a lot like The Legend of Zelda, but with an improved level of visual fidelity. Playing as a man who awakes from a cryogenic sleep 100 years after a nuclear war, your quest is to save humanity. You travel throughout the land in dungeons leveling up, defeating monsters, and collecting swords which can upgrade your attacks. The game has a strong emphasis on leveling up, with some enemies and bosses not being able to be defeated until you are a certain level. With an excellent soundtrack and fun gameplay, Crystallis is a must-have for action RPG fans looking for a high-quality experience on the NES.
So there you have it. Those are my NES hidden gems. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, you missed this game, you missed that game, why didn't you talk about this game? And honestly, I like to leave these lists open to interpretation. I also leave things off of these lists as well. Why do I do that? Because I plan on doing sequels to these, like my N64 one and my Dreamcast one. You see, I haven't played every N64 game, I haven't played every Dreamcast game, and I certainly haven't played every NES game. So for these videos, sometimes I leave off games I'm not super familiar with until I get familiar with them, so I can do a part 2 of these lists, because there's always going to be hidden gems, there's always going to be undiscovered games that maybe I don't know about today, but in 2 weeks could end up being one of my favorite games of all time. Now I know Felix the Cat is one of the more expensive games on the list, but I do like to include one pricey game that is still very high in quality. I do that with all of my Hidden Gems videos. You'll never see something like Little Samson on these though. Even though Little Samson is a good game, it's way overpriced. So I'm never gonna hit you with games that are triple digits plus because I don't think that's fair to collectors. So hopefully you enjoyed this list. Hopefully you learned about some new games that maybe you weren't familiar with. Now, if you have any suggestions for future Hidden Gems videos, leave it in the comments section below. Let me know what games you would like to see on NES Hidden Gems Part 2. And of course, let me know what you thought about the list as it is. I'm RGT85. Thank you for liking this video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. And I will see you guys next time. Later.